Welcome to the channel, guys, and welcome yet to another new video. In this video I'm going to be hosting some rare footage that was taken from a war that just recently happened. It was against two rivalries, and one was ZGR, the other one was ELF. ELF at one point was the #1, and they were #1 for a while. Now, during a war, there was a lot of hostility between these two guys, and when I joined ZGR, you know, the hostility between the two was pretty intense. And there were a lot of disrespects being thrown back and forth, a lot of tempers flaring off here and there. And I'd have to say that for those that were there at the moment know exactly what it is that I'm talking about when I say that, you know, there was a lot of fighting going on, a lot of cursing each other out, calling each other names. I mean, it was a crazy event. But as the time passed on, you know, a lot of things started to tone down and die out. But within this time, you know, this war in particular was extremely crucial, you know. And in this time of war, you know, these guys that I was playing with, ZGR, you know, they were pretty much new to the game just as much as I was. You know, they might have had maybe an extra, maybe like a couple of weeks to a month on top of me before the game started. But for the most part, I entered into the game with a lot of knowledge of, you know, a lot of strategies. And one of the things that, you know, I know about strategies is war. Now, speaking of war, you know, in this war, ELF pretty much was trying to destroy a lot of the things that ZGR was trying to do. But then again, ZGR at the same time was trying to destroy ELF for what they were doing, which was, you know, constantly harassing them, attacking them, and pretty much disrespecting them and calling them all kinds of crazy names. You know, I was a witness to a lot of that too. Now, particularly in this war, you know, ZGR really didn't know how to attack ELF, and at the time, you know, me and ZGR, we kind of had a little bit of a spat. You know, a couple of their members were disrespecting me, and, you know, eventually those members were kicked out because I guess the leaders, you know, they kind of caught on to what was happening and to the way that they were treating members, even though, you know, they weren't, you know, their ethnicity, they weren't Chinese. And because of that, you know, they were pretty much coming at me. But for the most part, you know, they did their job, man. They showed that, you know, real love was real love, and they got rid of the bad apples. You know, not to say that none of them are perfect, but at least the worst ones were gone. Well, the thing was that in the war, after the war kicked off, you know, eventually me and ZGR, we made our peace. They apologized, and, you know, they tried to make amends with me, and I love them to death for that. That's very honorable on their half, very respectable, and I appreciate it. I really do. And at one point, me and ZGR, we were discussing what kind of things could happen. So I threw some ideas out there, and I threw some strategies out there, and quite a couple of them sank with them, and eventually they implemented it. You know, they actually followed through with it. And, well, long story short, I created a live stream of the actual war attack of ELF and ZGR, and the main attack had happened when they went after their fortress, which unfortunately was one of the things that I brought up. You want to cut off an army, you have to cut them off at the supply, and a lot of their, you know, key buildings were the prime targets of the discussion that I, you know, brought up with them. Well, what had happened, they actually wound up attacking ELF, and they did exactly down to the bone what we'd spoken about. So they wound up hitting the soldiers, and they wound up hitting their key building, which was the fortress. And I guess within that attack, they didn't really know how to respond to that. And I guess that the whole battle was so chaotic that a lot of the ELF members really didn't know what to do. And I guess they either, you know, fought amongst themselves. I'm not sure, because I wasn't there to, you know, hear their, you know, alliance chat or anything, and no one told me what exactly went on. But from the way that it worked, from the way it looked from the video, you know, they were caught with their pants down. They didn't know what to do, you know. And my intentions were not for that to happen to ELF, because I actually had love. I still have love for ELF. You know, I wanted ELF to be on top, and at the same time, at one point, I was hoping to join them. But ZGR, you know, kind of stuck out their hand to me, and I wound up staying with them, and we pretty much built our friendship from there. But from the most part, from this war, and in the live stream, I don't think I showed the play-by-play attacks like right here. See, these were the play-by-play attacks all the way down to as far as I could get, because by the time I jumped onto the replay, the play-by-play, unfortunately I'd already lost more than half of the attacks. But what I was able to save, I got it down here on the video. But as you can see how the attackers, in how they attacked, they were all simultaneous. It wasn't just periodically. Everybody hit at once, and everybody pretty much worked out their targets. And sure enough, they executed it almost flawlessly, to where Elf just didn't know what to do. And in future videos that I have coming up now, you're going to see that within the videos, how they've implemented the attack strategy. And as time goes on, it's going to get perfected, especially with Kingdom Wars getting ready to come around. So we need to start getting a lot better, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. And we also need to start becoming a lot more unified, because unity is a very crucial thing to have. If you're not united, you just you guys aren't gonna beat anybody. We're gonna get steamrolled if we don't unite. A lot of these other kingdoms are still playing catch up, and I really doubt that a lot of them have figured out a lot of these strategies, because this is a fairly new game. So a lot of people really don't know too much about the game, at least not on this level. And I can say that from a lot of the other kingdoms that I've visited, that I've been pretty much spying on, because I don't know how else to to describe it. I've been pretty much checking out our competition and seeing how they're developing, and I don't know how well they're doing in their attacks, but I know that with our strategy, we're getting big. And I have some videos coming up now showing the progression of the alliance, and showing how big we've actually gotten, which proud to say that they've done a spectacular job. Now, at one point we were number one, but now we've allowed our alliance allies to get a little stronger than us, and we're trying to fortify ourselves with them around us. And the strategy to that is pretty much almost like a Spartan defense, where you surround yourself with strong members, but keeping the core strongest. And for those that are going to attack from the outside in, they're going to have a hell of a time trying to get through to us, especially if they teleport near to us. They're going to have to go through our first wave of defense, leaving our second defenses ready to attack the actual intruders, which I'll get into more of that defense as we go on. Now, you're gonna notice that a lot of these guys here, especially Marv, he's done a lot of he's done a lot of big work. He's no longer top dog in this kingdom. He's been bypassed, but just to show that there are members here that are willing to dedicate themselves to the game. They're buying, and they're spending, and they're building, and they're consistently fighting and building, and it's it's exactly how it should be. And I'm proud of these guys, because I've seen a lot of progression on their half, and that's very impressive. That's very good, and I appreciate the hard work too. And I myself, I've been training a lot, as much as I really can, because I've got too many things going on with my channel right now to just focus in on just one game. So unfortunately, the progression on just one particular game is not going to happen, because I'm very diverse. I'm not just to one thing. I'm into several things. But yeah, in attacking, it's a key factor, especially when it comes into multiplayer. When you're attacking with multiple people, you guys have to have communication. The communication is the key, and especially when you have the loyalty and you have the consistency, you're definitely going to be able to succeed. And in this game, That's exactly what it takes. It takes cooperation, it takes communication, dedication, a lot of cations. So, we were able to, grow, pull a lot of things together. A lot of the hostility has died out. A lot of the hostility and the disrespect has gone away. A lot of the bad apples have been removed. Now, at one point, there was a discussion talking about how the translating software was the culprit of a lot of the things, and I beg to differ. There's a very, very, very close line that people tend to cross, and they know because of the words that they choose to say. See, when you're talking about somebody's mama, somebody's daddy, or somebody's private parts or whatever, you're pretty much saying exactly what it is you're trying to say, even if it's broken up. Now, if you're just trying to make jokes like you're a poor guy or whatever, your bass sucks, that's your typical, trash talking. But now when you're calling people out racist names and you're, just pretty much talking like garbage, then that's when you know that the disrespect is a lot higher than just trash talking. And that's what happened in the beginning with these two teams, with Elf and ZGR. And a lot of what happened with Elf was exactly that. They had a lot of bad apples. They had a lot of bad players that were real ill-mouthed, ill-tempered, and unfortunately, eventually, it led them to what had happened. It fell apart. That's the one thing you have to understand. You have to have maturity on your team. You have to have sophistication. If you have people who are immature, ignorant, that's gonna tend to tear things apart and tear people to pieces. That's never gonna work. That's why it's important to choose your team wisely, and choose them properly. Don't be afraid to let bad members go, even if they're strong. Just because what happened to Elf can happen to anybody. And you never want that. Never. You always wanna keep a good team with you. So, yep, this is pretty much the footage of the other half of the live stream of the loss of Elf, and pretty much the ending of Elf. This is the footage of it. These are the attacks that occurred during this attack, and this war was a very sad one because unfortunately a good team was taken apart. It's just sad. It really is. It's sad. Such a prominent and potential just completely fell apart. But yeah, guys, this isn't gonna be the only video. There's gonna be plenty more videos coming to you. This was just a recap of the war between Elf and ZGR. Please subscribe, like, and share. Peace out, guys.